Hi and welcome to Studio SN. My name is Sara Naumann and today we're playing with Dylusions paint. My card background features 2 layers of painting to create a really fun dimensional look. And I'm just going to lift up one corner of this top layer, which is acetate, to show you that I have a painted stamped cardstock background underneath here. So the 2 layers are a painted distressed acetate and then a painted stamped cardstock background. Super easy techniques to do, both of which are using the Dylusions paint in vibrant turquoise. So let's start with our acetate layer first. I'm going to move aside my original card here and bring in a piece of heat resistant acetate. Now I've cut this down to size. I know it's a little bit tricky to see, so I'm going to bring in a piece of white scrap paper. I think that's a little bit easier for you to see the outline of it. And then we're going to start painting directly on here. Now, the paint that I'm working with, of course, the Dylusions, a really rich, beautiful paint, nice wide mouth jar, which is going to make it easy for us to apply the paint onto the acetate. And I'm not using a brush for any of these techniques. Instead, for this one, I'm going to use an old hotel key card, and this is going to be my applicator. So I'm just dipping in the short end of that key card and scraping off some of the excess. You don't need a lot of paint for this. And then I'm just going to drag it across the acetate. I'm not going for complete coverage here. I want kind of a streaky effect, like so. Just one end to the other. Scrape off any excess here and then put the lid back onto the jar. Now, the nice thing about the Dylusions paint is that it dries very quickly. That means that when you're not using the paint in the jar, go ahead and put the lid back on so that it doesn't dry out in the jar. Now, while this is still wet, I'm going to come back with some water and I'm spraying it right into the palm of my hand. And I'm going to flick this on here. And the reason I'm doing this is because this mister tends to give a really nice fine mist, but I want something a bit blobbier, something a little bit more blotchy. So that's the reason for doing it right into my hand. And I'm going to slide out this white cardstock, and I think you can see now the blotchy water on here, and it's going to start reacting with that paint. Now I'm using heat resistant acetate, and the reason for that is because I wanted to show you that you can then use a heat tool to speed up this drying process. Now if you're in the US or Canada, you can get heat resistant acetate from hot off the press. This is nice because you can do heat embossing on it. You can do some other heat techniques that you don't want to do with a regular acetate, or say an overhead projector type of acetate that you buy at the Office Depot or office supply store. So for those, if you use a heat tool with it, it's going to warp and maybe even melt, or I don't know what would happen, but you don't want to use a heat tool with that type of acetate. With a heat resistant acetate, you can use a heat tool to speed up the drying time. And you can see that already that water is starting to give kind of a blotchy effect to our paint, which is going to be a lot of fun. Now you can let this air dry as well, and sometimes what I like to do is just heat set it for a bit and then let it air dry for the rest of the time. But I can see that already that paint is drying, and I'm going to handle this pretty carefully because it's going to be a little bit hot. But I think you can see on there that I've got a really fun kind of blotchy effect going on. Now while this is drying, I'm going to bring in a piece of glossy white cardstock, and I'm going to do my second layer on here. And this is going to use, again, the same vibrant turquoise paint. And this time I'm going to do some stamping. And my stamp is this highly technical stamp, the repurposed loo roll. So this is really going to be nice because it's going to give us some fun circles, and you don't have to worry about cleaning the stamp afterward. So once again, I'm going to open my paint jar here, and I'm also going to use this hotel key card just to get a little bit of the paint onto an old coffee can lid. I don't need to have a whole lot. And once again, put the lid back on since I'm not going to be using it anymore. And then just take the loo roll and dip it into this paint. You don't want to dip it straight into the jar because you're going to end up getting way too much paint on there. And then stamping my circles. And this is a great way to get a fun circular effect. And as I mentioned before, you don't have to clean any stamps for this. I like to do some overlapping designs and so on. So you just create your own random pattern on there. And then what you'll do is go ahead and take your acetate, once it's dried, of course, and once this has dried as well, and then you're just going to layer the two on top of each other. So you'll have your 2 layers ready to go. So let me just quickly clean up this excess paint on here, and I'll bring back in my original card and we can take a look at what else is going on here. So you can see my painty distressed acetate layer, and then I've got that circular stamp layer underneath. I trimmed down my acetate slightly smaller than that white cardstock because I did want a little bit of a white edge to show around here. Of course, one question always is, how do you glue the acetate down because it's clear and any adhesive is going to show through? So I knew that I would have this big focal image on here, so I put my glue where that focal image would hide it. So, you know, I don't have any glue showing around on the edges because I don't have any applied down here. So all of the adhesive is underneath this card focal. Now the focal is a beautiful stamp sentiment. This is from PaperArtsy, and it's this one right here. As you can see on the plate, they've got lots of other really nice designs. And this is the HP 1204 on Easy Mount. So I've just simply stamped that onto glossy white cardstock using jet black archival ink, and then added another little strip of black cardstock going across here, a little hint of red with that gingham ribbon, and then a black shiny button. And this is all put up onto a craft cardstock card base. So lots of fun layers, a really easy technique to do, and quite a lot of fun as well. So this is how to create a layered effect using your Dylusions paint. I hope you enjoyed today's show. For more ideas and inspiration, please do stop by my website at saranaumann.com. If you enjoyed today's video, I invite you to subscribe to Studio SN on YouTube, and I'll keep you updated with a new video every Wednesday. Thank you for joining me on Studio SN, and I will see you again next time.